So what's the biggest win you've had as a coach? Like, who did you take me through the person you're most proud of that you got through to? Who was in the roughest shape. You know, obviously, do not say who it is. Obviously, confidentiality here, but just in broad strokes, like
you mean beyond you?
Beyond me, exactly. I feel. Is it disturbing that I feel pretty comfortable with where I'm at 42?
No.
I feel like kind of comfortable with it.
You should be comfortable. You've done well.
If I'll tell you why I'm comfortable with it. Maybe you tell me if I'm crazy or not. Because I actually completely accept the fact that this is random. Because when I was a journalist, I watched stupid people get rich and the smart people not.
Yeah.
And I tried to reconcile that for a little while.
Right.
And then I realized, wait a second. It's randomness. AOL buys Bebo, and then somebody who's brilliant who has something that's, whatever, and not that Bebo was necessarily a bad idea, but something more brilliant doesn't get bought. Or some VC falls for this person's line of bullshit and funds them instead of the true genius. Or whatever, some outside factor. Google Panda updates, crushes your business. Somebody sells the week before you or the week before. And that the only thing you can do is get better at your craft and just keep swinging the bat.
That sounds brilliant.
That's what I've come to in my career.
I
just want to get a couple more swings at bat.
In Buddhism, we talk about meditation practice. And I love the word practice because it implies non-finishing.
Right.
Right? So I look at you and I see the practice of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That you're enjoying.
I love it. I love
being an
teams,
entrepreneur. Even
products.
if you can enjoy that, that's the resiliency I like. That's like, okay, so that failed.
Right.
But this might not.
Right.
That's very different.
Yeah. I have a short memory for the failures, too. I'm also like, hey, Mahalo didn't work out exactly. The Google Panda update happened. It was an innovative idea, but Google kind of did the same thing. But hey, I got this idea for Inside. I should just do that. But most people can't give up on those ideas. I know when I was younger, I had a hard time giving up on Silicon Valley Reporter.
Well, it's very, very hard to give up on something that feels like an extension of your own personhood.
That's probably what it is. I probably was able to get that separation after Silicon Valley Reporter.
Do you think that you're any different now that you're a father?
Completely.
Well,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely puts things in perspective.
In what way?
Well, as an example, I know that what I'm building is important, but it's certainly not as important as what is going on at home and going to Legoland this weekend. So, the mock-ups of the latest version of Inside.com are really important, and I need to get to them after Legoland. Because I know that Legoland, in the grand scheme of things, she's going to remember Legoland. And I'm not going to remember the mocks.
Right.
And the mocks will get done. There's a certain type of pace I think you get to when you have a kid where you're like, okay, this doesn't have to manifest itself today. It'll manifest itself when it manifests itself. And we're going to work on a pace that we feel good about. We're going to refine our skills. We're going to set goals, but we're not going to lose our lives over it. Because what's the point then, right? And maybe it's because I'm rich. And I didn't feel that way when I was poor. When I was poor, I felt like I needed to get rich.
Do you feel like you answered all the demons from your childhood?
I did. I tell you the moment it happened for me. I hate to make it about money, but I guess when you grow up poor, it is about money.
Well, is it about money or is it about security?
Security and resources, definitely.
That's what I thought.
Watching my dad lose his business and watching him go into debt and watching them fight over money, that never goes away as an adult.
Stay with that for a moment.
I don't want to stay with that for too long. I'm going to start crying.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Too bad. I'm going to make you stay with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
My dad lost his job when I was 10.
God, it's nothing like a man losing his job. Your dad loses his job, that's the worst thing in the world for a son, I think.
It's interesting. Do
you remember that day?
December 21st, 1973.
Wow.
4 days before Christmas. He came home.
I remember it too. Yeah.
He came, well, tell me.
No, you tell me first.
He came home and said, there's going to be no Christmas.
Oh, shit.
And it's the first time I ever saw my father cry.
Yeah. That's just crushing for a son. How old are you, 10?
I was 10. He was probably mid-40s.
And he lost his job.
30 years at the same company. He started when he was in high school.
Wow.
Okay, and the company went out of business. It was a paternalistic company. They took care of everything. And then they got steamrolled by technology. They got disappeared as a printing company.
Wow.
And tell me about when your dad.
Oh, I remember my dad driving. I was at home. It was August of 1988. I was going to go to Fordham in the fall. I had no money to pay for Fordham, but they were going to give me a couple grand, and I was going to work 5 jobs to pay my way through. And there was a phone call that the feds were at the bar in Brooklyn with shotguns, clearing the place out, locking the place up, and that was it. He didn't pay his taxes for a year because he was so out of money, and the economy had crashed from the '87 crash. And that was it. My dad lost his restaurant, lost his business, and I had to go to college in 4 weeks and figure out how to pay $9,000 to Fordham.
Just take a breath, because I'm going to get all coachy on you.
Yeah.
I just want to honor that. Right.
I have to say that's probably the worst day of my life. Like losing Silicon Valley Reporter was not, and selling that business for nickels, and pennies on the dollar, and laying off those 50 people, not as hard as watching my dad lose his business.
Right.
And I said to myself, I am never going to lose. That was what that burned in me was I will never fail.
I got to tell you something, Jason. Thank you for that story. I have a theory that people who have shared experiences find each other, even if they're not conscious of it.
We never knew this about each other.
Never knew this about each other. Right? Isn't it ironic?
It's crazy.
I
both
knew.
Yeah.
Both from Brooklyn, both same experiences, right? So here's the way I internalized my father's experience. It was both a negative for me and a positive for me.
Yeah.
The negative for me was the belief that you could never trust a big company that you work for.
Huh. Yeah.
That after a certain period of time, you better be careful.
They will screw you.
They will screw you, and the whole thing will go away. So most of my major career decisions have been towards me being reliant solely on myself. So even
an independent streak. Yeah.
Right. Now, the good thing is that's worked out incredibly
fiercely
well,
independent.
right?
Yeah.
And I do have this internal belief that you could drop me on a desert island and I would make money selling lemonade to myself.
Right.
I'll figure out a way to
You
make
will love
money.
it. It's delicious.
I will. Have another drink, Jerry. Right. I will always figure out a way.